Hello, viewers. Welcome once again, and let's keep on hearing from you. Join the conversation, and let's all have this discussion together. I'm still here with Angel, and the discussion was very, very, very insightful, and we're going to continue right away. We were talking about ESGs and how project management and the management of public and private projects have evolved beyond the consideration of the triple constraints and the fact that all serious-minded stakeholders are beginning to be interested in the embedment of ESG into our projects. We did discuss a number of KPIs and criteria for looking at these. Beyond what we have discussed, I'm looking at, in your experience, what would you say are the challenges that you have faced when trying to embed ESGs into your projects?
I'm going to explain that through one of the projects that we worked in terms of small-scale farmers.
Okay.
So the overall scope was to help the small-scale farmers modernize and meet market demands and improve their overall farming practices. So as part of the implementation, starting with the E part, a lot of the farmers were still using chemical fertilizers. They were using not very good practices in terms of farming. Now, when we came in and started introducing organic fertilizers and issues of crop rotation, we did get resistance from them. Okay, they were like, no, this is how we've been doing it all this time, and we're getting good yields. Why should we enter costs or change our ways for the new ways because of the environment? So one of the ways that we overcome that was actually providing a pilot demonstration, okay? Because the only way they would understand is to see results. You are saying we should use organic fertilizer, we will yield more. Show us. Okay, so we had to go through like period of around 8 or 9 months with the pilot demonstration space, showing them organic fertilizers, how to grow, but also using the crop rotation methods, and they saw the yield.
Okay.
So once that was embedded, it was now easy for them to really stand behind our environmental goal of changing how the practices were. Another one was, as part of the same project, was we had a social issue. Women were still largely underrepresented. And even when we were calling them for the training and all that, they were not showing up. And the reason that we found is the women did not want to be in this training session with the men, because of the norms of the community that they were. So women were on their own and men. So as a way to overcome that, we had to create women-specific sessions that were just for them, to show them how we do farming. And the numbers actually started to increase. Okay. Now, the final problem, one of many, was a governance issue. And the farmers had a cooperative that was already existing for the farmers. But there were so many internal issues in terms of money management, and they didn't understand what was happening to their money and all of that. So what we introduced was a payment system, partnering up with one of the local banks. So in this, they were able to make payments, but also see where the money was going. We restructured a bit of authority levels in terms of approval of payments. We standardized having more meetings, engagement for the members, because those cooperative was the way that the farmers were working together. But a governance issue was preventing them from as a community to move forward. So with that, I think I've covered the ESG part. Of course, there were other issues, but those were the main ones that we were facing.
Right. Now, vis-a-vis what you have explained, how do communities embrace projects that have ESG components in them as against those who do not have any ESG considerations?
They embrace them more, and not necessarily that they understand that this is ESG, but because of the involvement of the community. When you have an ESG embedded project, especially on the S part, the social part. As I said, even when we are mapping stakeholders, we are mapping them based, focusing on the ESG mindset, okay, looking at the risks and opportunities that would impact them. The level that we are looking in terms of stakeholder engagement is much higher than projects that don't. And we're going beyond just ticking a box, So by the time the project comes in, the community is embracing because they, most importantly, felt heard, understood. And if there were any issues that were raised, remember, we would keep this in our risk matrix and provide mitigation. So by the time we're in the field, those things would already be addressed. And not all of them sometimes could be cultural issues that we have considered as part of our stakeholder mapping. So that would be a very big difference. While other projects, you'd find, yes, they do stakeholders, but they may not be a priority in terms of community. There would be just the government. Yes, we have our permits. We have the customers, have suppliers, but the community would not be on the forefront or have a very big impact in terms of consideration of stakeholder mapping.
Okay. Before we went for the break, you made a very profound statement concerning the fact that governments are even more interested in seeing ESG components in various projects and proposals. Why do you think this is so? Is it that the governments have so much interest in ESG, or there's another reason beyond that?
Okay, I'll provide 3 reasons. Okay. Reason number 1, ESG, now maybe being specific in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, already ties to the National Development Goals of most of the countries that are aligning to it. And as a nation, you'd find that as if you're part of the United Nations Global Compact, you need to report on some of the SDGs, which are all combined together as a country to give you an overlook on how we are getting closer to the goals that we have set. Okay. Number 2, most of the time it brings less problems for the government. As I said, the people, let's say if a project has been approved and it's bringing environmental damage, it's now the government's issue to come and clean up. It's now the government issue to come and deal with the community problem. So even for them, they're now starting to realize it's better from the beginning. We have this embedded so that we do not come later on to deal with the impact that has already happened to the community environment and so forth. But most importantly, a lot of nations still are dependent on development partners, donor funds, and a lot of the bridge, even construction projects, they're still getting money from like the World Banks, African Development Banks, and so forth. So they themselves, in order to give you money, need to have an ESG report from you as a nation and all that. Or even when they provide the financing, the projects that you are going to finance need to have that in place, So those are the 3 reasons I should find now that the government are now coming as part of the conversation, because it's a win-win situation for them.
That puts it in a very good perspective. How about some of these governments who may be late to the party, or would say these projects are coming from internally generated funds, so there will be no external organization to demand these ESGs from them, but would want to go ahead looking at the green cost, something they can avoid, and they want to go ahead with it. As project professionals or project managers who may be dealing with such situations, what would you advise and how would they go about it?
I would go back the same way as I explained before. It's about selling your case.
Okay.
This journey is not going to be easy, okay, and it's also not going to be straightforward. There are other countries who have embraced ESG quicker, and there are others who are still trying to figure out if this thing is even real, okay. But for governments, even from a local perspective, as I said, it's a cost thing. You know, looking at it that we are preventing costs that may not happen, that will not happen in the future. It's the same as having water sprinklers to prevent fire. It's until the fire burns when you see the importance. But when the technician comes and tells you we need to put this, you are seeing it as a cost. Exactly. It's the same thing. So that's how you need to phrase it for them to see, you know. And as I said, if something happens, the first people the community goes is the government, because they feel that you approved this project regardless of where the funding came, and it has impacted us.
Okay. All right. We are looking at actionable steps. What can professionals do? For example, can you share with us a project or 3 simple reasons why a project manager should be keen or insist on having all their projects having ESGs embedded in the entire life cycle of their projects?
Yes. So from a perspective of, say, even from a funding perspective, I'll start. Even as a project manager, as you're writing the proposals, tying them to ESG is a very quick way in order for you to be able to access financing. Okay. And right now, more than ever, as I said, investors are changing. They don't want to invest in businesses don't want to invest in projects that will bring back a bad reputation for them. Okay. So that becomes one of the requirements there. But secondly of all, even when the project is implemented, ESG, as I said, ensures that you prevent problems. We are doing proactive risk assessments, you know. So as a project manager, who wants to be receiving calls in the middle of the night, the village people are on strike? Nobody wants that. You want a smooth project that ensures it's finished in time, within budget, okay, and fulfills the scope. Because when there are problems, those are delays, and delays equate to costs. So as a project manager, this is very key that you ensure you track throughout. But most importantly, it's important because we need to be doing projects that have positive impact in our communities. We need to be able to say that I have done a project and I'm proud of that project. You don't want to be in a situation where you have done a project and people are talking about it and you feel embarrassed to say, I was the project manager because of the impact that has happened, you know? So I am saying I want project managers to have ESG embedded because we want to have positive impact in the community that we ourselves can be proud of and say, I am the one who was responsible for that project. Look at the success it's having right now.
Wow. How do you see the role of project managers evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? As ESG becomes much more mainstream and a very, very primary requirement for project management, how do you see the impact on project managers in the next 5 to 10 years?
For me, what I would look at is more of the impact to the projects that we're doing. As I said, once we have this embedded and the more it's now becoming a requirement, we will now start to see projects that have, I said, positive impact with less problems that were there before, you know, because now we have so many projects that are finished, but they're just full of complaints. There are projects that are ongoing that have caused water pollution that 10 or 15 years later, people are still trying to clean up. So what I'm seeing in the next 5 to 10 years is we are having projects that have considered all this and having a positive impact in the community.
Great. That explains it very well. I am on the other side looking at the project managers who may be early adopters and those who may say it's irrelevant, so they stay until they have no knowledge, nor skills, nor even the mindset about implementing any form of ESG in their projects. How do you see these two on the other side of the coin playing out in the same time frame, 5 to 10 years?
There will always be those people. Even when we look, even in other fields, even technology, there will be the ones who are adopting quickly, and there'll be the ones who are kind of adopting but trying to learn, and then there'll be others who are skeptical. Okay. So even with these two, it's still the same way. We as project managers, we're not all the same. I'll say that even there's some projects where you find people calling themselves project managers, but if you look at their background, they're not project managers, they're not trained, they don't even want to do paperwork, but they're running projects. You're telling them, yeah, but you need to have a scope, they're like, no, all I know is I need to build this bridge. Why are you telling me I need to fill up a risk matrix? What is that? But there'll be others who are following the principles of project management. Okay, ensuring everything is documented, followed up, and tracked and updated. And these two, even now, both exist. And both are doing projects. So it will still be the same battle that is going to be there. But eventually, there will be a very small percentage of those who are not adopting than there will be who have already.